Now the Fiesta Bowl, Miami and Ole Miss. Miami is a 3.5-point favorite. And when I first take a look at this matchup and I watched some of the film on this matchup, I'll be honest, the first thing I thought, and Miami fans are going to love this because the last thing Miami fans want is me picking Miami because I picked against them in the first 2 rounds and they won. And they did an incredible job in both of those games on the road against Texas A&M and then beating Ohio State in the way that they did that. So they don't want any part of me talking, glowingly about Miami, but I'm going to. However, when I first looked at this, I thought to myself, this Ole Miss team resembles the SMU team that they already lost to. Why did they lose to SMU? And it's, by the way, an SMU team that I just spent some time around down at the Holiday Bowl in San Diego with Rhett Lashley. And we had a conversation about Miami. And listen, we both talked about how dominant they were up front on the offensive line and the defensive line. That defensive line is excellent, so good. Bain and Mesidor are just all over the field. Their motor, their ability to bend, it's really good. One thing that SMU was able to do was utilize tempo on offense, so a quicker tempo to try to tire those pass rushers down, and the ability to get the ball on the perimeter in the first and second quarter as quickly as possible. And what that did is it let the tempo go. It got them to snap the football quite often, and then it started to tire out the rusher. And once those rushers got a little tired in the second half, it was easier to play offense, and SMU took advantage of that. Okay, and SMU ultimately won that game. And Ole Miss resembles that team. I think Chambliss is better than Jennings. Okay, this Ole Miss offense, they can run the ball with Lacey. They can get it on the perimeter. Trinidad Chambliss can create. He's wonderful creating. Man, he was good against Georgia. Buying time, showing off his strong arm, his accurate arm down the field. So the first blush, I really liked Ole Miss in this game. And the question for me about Ole Miss was just like, all right, would they be able to hold up on the line of scrimmage, in particular against that offensive line and the defensive line? Would they be able to hold up? That's the main question of this game. And then it's like, hold on. No, it's not the main question of this game. Who's coaching for Ole Miss is the question of this game. I can't believe that we're in this situation where the head coach of Ole Miss playing in the national semifinal, Pete Golding, is audibly saying like, well, I don't really know what's going on with the offensive coaching staff. Are we kidding? What in the world is going on? In what world are we operating? Oh, yeah, we're operating in a world that was created by coaches because they fought for, a lot of them in the SEC, like Lane Kiffin specifically, fought for this calendar because they didn't want to transfer portal in March or May because they didn't want players on their roster that they knew that they didn't want on their roster for the next fall. So in order to avoid that awkwardness and have a more substantial spring ball with the roster that you intend to have in the fall, those guys fought for a January transfer portal. And then Lane used it as an excuse to leave Ole Miss right before the playoff. So this is what I find so frustrating about this entire situation is that this moment is about to be so special for the players. This should be about Lacey and Chambliss and all these players at Ole Miss that have put themselves in this position to go out and compete for and potentially win a championship. And yet they're not being given the best possible opportunity to do that because coaches, this is not their moment. They had their moment. Coaches are there to do a lot of things. It's not their moment though. It's their time to go in there and build, push, develop, love on, do all these things to allow the players to have the most possible success that they can have. And the reason we're in this situation where Ole Miss doesn't know what's going on with the offensive coaching staff is because of Lane and his decision. And listen, I'm not going to begrudge him his decision, but I said in that big noon kickoff prior to the Michigan-Ohio State game, I said all Lane had to do was look in the mirror because the opportunity to compete for a national championship was right in front of him. And guess who was right? I was. This is the chance that Ole Miss has. This is the chance that any coach has. And now Pete Golding has more playoff wins than Lane Kiffin. So The frustration for me is that this moment should be about the players. And now we're talking about, is Charlie Weis back to game plan for the offense? Now, I have my feelings about whether Charlie should have just stayed at Ole Miss in the first place. I think he should have. It should have been his offense, and he could have called plays, and he doesn't have to go and be under Lane Kiffin and watch Lane call plays into the future. Charlie proved that with a win over Georgia. But now we're sitting here, and we don't know what's going on with the offensive coaching staff. They should be there to build the game plan, then implement the game plan, and then start to execute the game plan, and then ultimately call it. It's not just about who's there on Thursday. It's about who's there the last 7 or 8 days, because that's what football is all about. That's what building a game plan is all about. What should have happened in this situation, what should have happened is that Lane should have allowed those offensive coaches to just stay in Oxford and focus on the playoff until its conclusion, whenever that is. Not this back and forth, and I need you for a recruiting visit for a quarterback who, by the way, didn't even commit to LSU, because guess why? These commitments don't happen in a vacuum. By the way, all these players saw what just happened, Lane, when you left a team right before the playoff. So, I'm frustrated by this situation because of the players. And I wish that these offensive coaches would have been there for the entire week, could have built this game plan and ultimately gone out there and executed that game plan and then move on to wherever you want to move on to after the season. But that's not the way that this has gone. So because of that, it's made me rethink what I believe will take place in this game. Because here's what I know about this game. What I know about this game is that Miami has something they can rely on, and it's at the line of scrimmage on both sides. I already touched on this, but this offensive line with Maui Noah, the run game with Mark Fletcher, what they've allowed is Miami to play offensive football and not put Carson Beck in a position where he's got to throw the football on 3rd and long. How many times was he in 3rd and manageable, and he was able to get it with his feet, huge first downs with his feet, get it with a check down, move the chains. He hasn't even had to throw the football for over 150 yards in this playoff because they've controlled the game and the tempo of the game and the line of scrimmage in the game. And if they can do that, they're going to have a great chance to win this game. Now, on the flip side, this becomes about corralling Trinidad Chambliss, because if he's running around creating, who knows how many points Ole Miss can score. This is a very good offense, and it's an offense that's led by a quarterback that can get hot. And like I said, he can create a lot of problems. So that's the biggest issue in the game right there. That's the biggest question. Can Miami put Beck in a position where all he has to do is manage manageable situations? And can Trinidad Chambliss create some magic for Ole Miss? That's where this game is won and lost for both units. What do I think is going to happen? Listen, the quickest way to be defeated is to be distracted. And Miami fans, I am so sorry to do this to you. After not picking you in the first 2 rounds with wins, I've got to go with the Canes. Miami wins it 30-24 as a 3.5-point favorite. They cover the 3.5, and Miami goes on to face Indiana for the national championship. Thank you for watching the Joel Klatt Show YouTube channel. And if you liked this clip, make sure to like it and subscribe to the channel, and you can stay up to date on all of my college football coverage.